Nigeria now ready to tackle public health emergency-related issues headlong as President Buhari launches a 62.1 billion naira HIV Trust Fund initiative.
We have continued to make good our commitment of placing more people living with HIV on treatment annually using national resources.
Worried over high cost of rent in the FCT, Senate moves to regulate mode of payment on residential houses.
There is no use somebody struggle to pay you the first one and subsequently you are dragging almost every day.
Plus, northern leaders meet in Abuja. Security and economy, top agenda.
Engaging the traditional institutions in finding lasting solutions to the current trend of insecurity is a desire that cannot be compromised.
Hello and welcome to NTA Network News, reaching you live from Abuja. I'm Ian Ray John. Reading with me tonight are Adiola Komiakere in Lagos and Suleiman Rigachukwu in Kaduna. Thank you for joining us. And before we begin tonight, it's good you know that you can follow this news broadcast live on our website, nta.ng/live, and on our YouTube channel, NTA News Online. You can also visit our Facebook page, NTA Network News, Twitter at NTA News Now, and Instagram, NTA Network, for updates. Health is on the front burner tonight as the 62.1 billion naira HIV Trust Fund of Nigeria has been launched by President Muhammadu Buhari. He said the initiative is in furtherance of his administration's efforts at prioritizing desired interventions towards addressing killer diseases and public health emergencies. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Recommended by the National Agency for the Control of AIDS and driven by the Nigerian Business Coalition Against AIDS, the HIV Trust Fund is a sustainable financing mechanism for the mobilization and deployment of domestic resources towards addressing the prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV in Nigeria. Records show that Nigeria has the highest number of HIV new infections amongst children globally, as the country accounts for 1 out of every 7 children born with the disease.
Under my care, I have 87 positive pregnant women. The whole of them gave birth to their babies, and the babies are all negative. Elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV is possible, and together we can do that.
Providing lifelong treatment to all people living with HIV, even after successfully stopping new HIV transmission, would require a domestically sustainable financing mechanism.
Today's launch of the Trust Fund will serve to guarantee funding from the private sector-led resources for HIV interventions, especially for the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV.
All Nigerians depend on us for a future without HIV. I call on all of you to support the Trust Fund and to eliminate HIV from our society.
President Muhammadu Buhari described strong domestic resource mobilization through an enduring partnership and shared responsibility as critical towards sustaining the response to HIV and other emerging public health emergencies.
Ending AIDS as a public health threat in Nigeria will require increased domestic funding. We have continued to make good our commitment of placing more people living with HIV on treatment annually using national resources. Our partnership with the private sector in our response to coronavirus pandemic provide a readily available financing solution that we can leverage on to sustain the HIV response.
The President commended the National Agency for the Control of AIDS and the Nigeria Business Coalition Against AIDS for their efforts at establishing the Trust Fund towards securing a generation of babies free of HIV.
Going forward, I hope the HIV Trust Fund of Nigeria will galvanize more of the private sector and others to surpass the target of 62 billion naira in the next 5 years.
Apart from the pledges made by representatives of the business community in support of the fund, there were also goodwill messages from the UNAIDS and the Global Fund.
I urge all of you gathered here today to ensure these efforts are fully resourced and operationalized. These Nigerians will need treatment for life. We cannot let them down.
At the remarkable event, speakers poured encomiums on the Buhari presidency for identifying and placing on treatment additional 900,000 people living with HIV in Nigeria in the last 3 years. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
In vain, President Buhari's renewed commitment at eliminating mother-to-child transmission of HIV in the country is part of efforts at attaining the UNAIDS 95-95-95 global target of ending HIV by 2030. Basi Ita Ekpang brings us details.
Record shows Nigeria has the highest burden of transmission of HIV in the world due to poor coverage of the prevention of mother-to-child transmission. Successive administration in Nigeria intensified efforts at eliminating HIV, which resulted in significant decline from 5.8 in 2021 to 1.3 in 2018. Despite these efforts, Nigeria failed to attain the 90-90-90 targets. Key players say the launch of the HIV Trust Fund with focus on the elimination of mother-to-child transmission is timely, going by the burden of the scourge in the country.
This is the best way in sustaining HIV and AIDS program by mobilizing internal resources, which I think will go a long way, especially in addressing mother-to-child of HIV transmission, which has been identified as a major challenge in ending HIV and AIDS in Nigeria.
NACA boss Aliyu Gambo appreciated government and donor agencies for continuous support at ensuring that 1.7 million people out of the 1.8 million people tested positive in the country are on treatment.
Securing a financing mechanism to guarantee a generation of HIV babies is the basis of today's launch.
Development partners rated Nigeria high in the control of HIV, even in the face of COVID-19, and noted that the Trust Fund will help Nigeria attain the 95-95-95 targets of ending HIV by 2030. Basi Taipa, NTA News.
And away from health, now looking at education, the federal government says it remains committed to honouring promises made to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, towards preventing disruptive strikes, engendering uninterrupted academic programs and improving funding of educational institutions. President Muhammadu Buhari made the pledge while receiving in audience members of the Nigeria Interreligious Council, co-chaired by the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar, and the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Samson Ayokule. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The Nigeria Interreligious Council members were in the State House in furtherance of their consultative engagement with critical stakeholders towards ensuring that strikes in Nigerian universities are averted in the interest of the country. The council had already met with the leadership of ASU, during which the contentious issues were outlined and confirmation received that some of them have already been addressed. The leadership of NIREC therefore made a case for the president to direct the immediate return to the table towards concluding the renegotiation of the 2019 agreement with ASU.
If the renegotiation process continues to conclusion, issue that government is not comfortable with can be renegotiated with a view to reaching only implementable agreements. We believe that with renegotiation in place, other issues will be adequately addressed along the line.
We want to assure you of our total commitment to support the government in providing solution to this perennial problem of strikes.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who commended the leadership of NIREC for intervening in the year-long strike by ASU and holding consultations with the parties, reaffirmed his commitment to bequeathing a Nigeria where diversities are converted to strength and weaknesses safeguarded from manipulation and exploitation.
No society which wishes itself well neglects its educational system and all its component parts. Therefore, we must value our custodians of knowledge while demonstrating that indeed the service they render in the shape of molding our students to grow into valued and productive members of our society.
On issues raised by NIREC on finding sustainable solutions to the perennial and disruptive strikes that threatened the sanctity and integrity of the nation's university system, the President confirmed to have directed his Chief of Staff as well as Ministers of Labor and Employment and that of Education to make resolving the contentious issues a priority. To show government's commitment, he said several payments have already been made over the last 6 months addressing the major issues, including funding for infrastructure development across public universities. And in view of the resistance of ASU to IPPIS, UTA's payment software is now on the table.
It is important that you share with them that government regards them and the service they provide to our nation very highly. However, they should be cognizant of the fiscal pressures that we are currently facing. Nonetheless, we remain committed to honoring our promises. For their part, I would like to encourage ASU to continue to work with us towards finding solutions to the challenges that confront us. This administration is committed to engagement and dialogue, and I urge them to stay the course towards a joint resolution in the best interest of our children and the nation.
The President assured members of NIREC that their constant prayers for the country and desire to advise the government on critical national issues are well noted and indeed appreciated. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has again promised to do whatever it takes within the last lap of his administration towards bequeathing a united, peaceful and prosperous Nigeria to the next administration. Speaking at a dinner he organized in honor of the 2022 committee, the president also stated his commitment to leaving a legacy of a strong agriculture-led and diversified homegrown economy. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The 2022 committee is made up of, amongst others, governors, elder statesmen, captains of industry, political class, technocrats, security experts, and members of the civil society. It was convened to chart a supportive course towards addressing Nigeria's fundamental problems associated with security, economy, and polity as the nation approaches another electoral process and indeed transition.
This is a time to defend the national interest. And the 2022 committee is put together to do just that, defend Nigeria at a time of crisis and at a time of transition.
Mr. President, this committee wants to take advantage of your consistent leadership, relentless passion and patriotism to figure out how to accelerate things and ensure that the transition is seamless in a manner that can build on the gains that we have made in the course of your time in office.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as pleasing that the Nigerian elites are now working together towards building a better Nigeria. He said he feels heartened that a more collaborative social enterprise model for resolving Nigeria's common challenges is being forged, saying this is the kind of spirit he always advocated towards achieving a peaceful, secure, and prosperous nation.
This initiative you have taken is very good. I wish you had taken it much earlier.
The president expressed his administration's resolve to remain focused on the fight against all forms of insecurity, corruption and poverty towards finishing strong in the next 14 months, as well as achieving an all-inclusive economic opportunity for all Nigerians.
For those resources we had, if we had invested in agriculture, there wouldn't have been any need for fighting for oil.
President Buhari advised politicians amongst the committee members to look beyond gaining political power to how they can leverage public positions in the process of societal change, while businessmen and women should effectively utilize the nation's business endowment for the greater good of the country. He said everyone must champion the idea of a Nigeria where every citizen would be proud to call their own. The president used the opportunity to respond to concerns raised on the resurgence of military takeover of power in some West African countries.
Nigeria is equal to the rest of ECOWAS put together. We have gone through that. We have passed that stage for good.
President Buhari looks forward to receiving the outcome of the committee's next interactive session slated for Lagos in the coming days. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And just a quick reminder that you can follow this news broadcast live on our website, nta.ng/live, on our YouTube channel, NTA News Online, also on Facebook at NTA Network News. Twitter is at NTA News Now, and Instagram is NTA Network for updates. Time for some messages. Please stay. Thank you for staying. At least one person is said to have been killed in the capital of the West African state of Guinea-Bissau amid fears of a coup attempt. Reports say gunfire erupted near a government building in Bissau, where President Umaro Sissoco Embalo was thought to be attending a cabinet meeting. Soldiers have reportedly detained the president and his ministers. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on Tuesday condemned what it calls an attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau and called on the military to return to their barracks. One of the poorest countries in the world, the former Portuguese colony has seen 9 coups or attempted coups since 1980. This would be the 5th military coup in the past year in West and Central Africa region. Just last week, there was a coup in Burkina Faso. And back home in Nigeria, despite the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, Nigeria's public health system is still robust and, when well-resourced, can achieve greater coverage, including meeting targets set in disease prevention and eradication. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this when he received on a courtesy visit a delegation from the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, led by its president, Dr. Christopher Elias, accompanied by Alhaji Aliko Dangote, founder of the Dangote Foundation. As the Vice President observed, the nation needs to do a lot more by increasing personnel in public healthcare system, ramping up the numbers to achieve greater coverage and do a lot more. Citing the response to COVID-19, he said he's confident that the country's public health system is robust enough to deal with any situation so long as it is well-resourced at the relevant times. Vice President Osinbajo appreciated both the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Dangote Foundation for their support in the country's healthcare system, adding that the federal government looks forward to more collaboration with partners for the benefit of the Nigerian people. In his remarks, Dr. Elias commended the efforts of the Buhari administration in the area of human capital development despite the disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic and urged improved collaboration among stakeholders to address issues related to nutrition and immunization, among other public health challenges. In other news, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, had a comprehensive meeting on agro-exports and came up with a 60-day plan to look at the various challenges facing the sector. The Vice President, after receiving a report on issues surrounding agro-exports, said there has to be a complete reorientation on the exercise of regulatory authority in the country in order for businesses and investors to thrive in Nigeria. State House correspondent Gino Nifadi has the details.
It all began late last October when exporters and importers of agro products met with the Vice President and complained of challenges they were facing. This led to the setting up of an ad hoc committee to look at the issues. That ad hoc committee was headed by the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment. The report of that committee is what this meeting deliberates on.
They presented the report, and it has been decided that the PEBEC will now look at ways of implementing the report, such that necessary steps will be taken to make business easier for these exporters and importers.
In the context of around the ports, businesses, containers moving to and from the ports, we discussed that. The Honorable Minister of Police Affairs was here at the meeting as well. All the checkpoints on the road, we discussed security, we discussed corruption, we discussed inefficiencies and lack of transparency. These are the real issues, and we discussed them all. The private sector were here represented strongly, and they were quite pleased with the reforms. So if MDAs are able to implement these reforms, then there will be some succor and respite.
Secretary of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, Jumoke Oduwale, says PEBEC is also tracking what's happening in states, and they are cooperating.
We have a number of things: automation, regulatory reforms, processes, and we'll give you the document. We're going to track as usual with your support for the next 60 days, starting on the 7th of February and ending on the 7th of April.
Oduwale described the intervention as a continuous action to improve the business environment, and this is the 7th National Action Plan. In the State House, Jude Onifade, NTA News.
Similarly, President Muhammadu Buhari's policy advocacy to produce what we eat and eat what we produce has further gained a momentous boost in Kano with the inauguration of a multi-billion naira Gerawa rice mills factory in the ancient commercial city. Muhammad Ali reports that the CBN governor, Kaduna, who inaugurated the factory, says lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty remains sacrosanct.
Nigeria is currently the largest producer of rice paddy in Africa, with an average production of 8 million metric tons per annum, as more integrated rice mills are now recording large turnover of processed rice and many more underway in the country. One of the newest is Gerawa ultra-modern rice mills with 420 metric tons capacity per day. Inaugurating the multi-billion naira rice mill, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, together with governors of Kano, Jigawa and Kebbi states, says the federal government's support to farmers to boost agric value chain is a testimony that local rice is being placed high for speedy economy.
These achievements recorded in this sector is no doubt a product of the policies and support provided by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
It's amazing what the central bank is doing today. We say, support our farmers. They support our farmers. We said, support our processors. They support our processors.
Not surprisingly, we are today here commissioning Gerawa rice mill.
The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has been steadfast on the path of economic diversification. Rice remains a major staple food for every Nigerian household. And that prominence justifies the attention we have placed on the commodity as a focal part of our food security drive in Nigeria.
Chairman Gerawa Group of Companies, Alhaji Isa Gerawa, commended the federal government for the support on agricultural transformation crusade of rice production. With this commitment by private sectors, observers say Nigeria will be self-sufficient in rice production. Muhammad Ali, NTA News.
And away from Kano, Senate is considering a bill that seeks to regulate the mode of payment of rent on residential apartments in the Federal Capital Territory. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nko reports that the proposed law has passed second reading.
Second reading taken.
It was the first plenary of the week, devoid of motions of urgent public importance. Legislative business was strictly confined to the other paper of the day, The nature of Nigeria's landlord-tenant contractual agreement came to the fore through a bill sponsored by Senator Smart Adeyemi. Senators believe that the bill, when passed, will ameliorate the financial burden of paying house rent on residents of the Federal Capital Territory. It proposes that instead of advance rent payment of 1, 2 or 3 years, it should be on monthly basis as it is practiced in other countries.
As low-income earners who cannot afford continually pay their rent engage in measures which are illegal or unlawful.
Even those who are homeowners, there is no use somebody struggle to pay you the first one and subsequently you are dragging almost every day.
Is whether it is just to ask the clerk of the Senate, whose salary is not up to 800,000 or maybe 400, to pay 2 million at once in advance. Where are you expecting him to get that money?
Government can go into housing schemes, mortgage schemes, housing credit facilities, not control the business of private individuals. I therefore oppose vigorously this bill.
Those in favor that this bill be now read the second time, say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The National Health Act 2014 Amendment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, and the Solid Minerals Development Bank Establishment Bill by Senator Yakubu Oseni, also passed second reading.
And there's a strong need for stakeholders to work together to ensure that reliable and affordable healthcare reaches all segments of society.
To provide working capital loans to eligible enterprise where the projects are unable to secure same from the banking system, that is the commercial banking.
The Civil Aviation Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill, School of Mines and Geological Studies GOYUK, and the Federal Universities of Technology Act Amendment Bill passed third reading from the National Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives wants the Nigeria Customs Service to pay 20 million naira each as compensation to families of those that lost their lives following alleged shootings by customs operatives in Oyo and Katsina states in 2019. The said killings occurred in some border communities of the two states when the operatives opened fire while in hot pursuit of smugglers. National Assembly correspondent Damiali reports.
Payment of compensation was recommended by the Committee on Customs following investigations it was mandated to conduct when the incidents were brought to the notice of the House. In adopting the recommendations as contained in the reports of the committee, the House noted that since life cannot be replaced, compensation be awarded in monetary terms to the families of the victims.
If it happened at the border station, that is between the smugglers and customs, it's understandable. But when they are allowed to come inside market, then you go inside the market, you start, definitely innocent people will be affected.
Also to be handed compensation of 2 million naira each are those injured during the shooting. The total amount for the 14 persons killed and 14 others injured is 390 million naira. The House has commended the prompt action of authorities in fishing out and prosecuting the killers of 5-year-old Hanifa recently in Kano State and observed a minute's silence in her honor. Plenary featured first reading of 13 bills, including the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps Amendment Bill from the National Assembly. Lami Ali, NTA News.
And away from the National Assembly now, traditional leaders and notable figures of northern extraction have made a case for more sophisticated approach and other fundamental considerations to tackle the persistent rise of threat to lives and property in parts of the region. This was the outcome of a high-level stakeholders security summit aimed at adopting a clear security roadmap towards salvaging the region from the state of insecurity and other socio-economic challenges. Abubakar Akwanga reports.
Northern Nigeria, a region with high potential for economic transformation, is gradually falling short of necessary tools to take its destiny in its own hands, owing to incessant breach of public order and threat to national sovereignty. The unfortunate situation that is plaguing the region is now galvanizing support from stakeholders to think outside the box and reach a consensus as to what should be done to silence the sound of guns. Chairman Northern Traditional Council and the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar III, and other prominent monarchs, including past security chiefs from the region and the media, are part of the current move to salvage the region.
We felt we should do something more serious, taking into consideration the serious challenges we are facing in the north. We looked at what can we do, what should we do, to once more offer our suggestions and recommendations to the appropriate legal authorities in our country and in the north.
Chairman Northern Governors Forum and Governor of Plateau State, Samuel Bakolalong, says a report to consider the role of traditional ruler in the nation's constitution for enhanced governance is underway.
The forum has since deliberated on their recommendations and forwarded them along with other submissions to the National Assembly Constitution Review Committee for consideration. For us at the Northern Governors Forum, engaging the traditional institutions in finding lasting solutions to the current trend of insecurity is a desire that cannot be compromised.
The administration of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari has made tremendous gains in meeting the challenges of insecurity by evolving new strategies that have considerably degraded the capacity of insurgents to pose a real threat to the security integrity of the country.
And the NTA, we are doing a lot, and we are cooperating and supporting all organizations like this one with the Northern Traditional Rulers, and we'll give them full support to see that security situation of Nigeria is improved, if not curtailed totally.
The summit, with the theme curbing the spate of insecurity through collective efforts, is eliciting questions yearning for answers. The panel has set up a high-powered committee of 5 members to tidy up and submit its findings within the duration of 5 days for thorough study and future implementation. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
Many thanks, Abubakar. It's now time to go to Lagos, where Adeola has the next set of stories. Adeola.
Thank you, Nyere. Construction work at the Lekki Deep Sea Port is progressing rapidly and presently put at 80% completion. More gratifying is the fact that the promoters of the project are proposing the 4th quarter of 2022 to test run operational readiness. Michael Olaleye reports.
These structures and infrastructure are the imprints of the new phase of port operations in Nigeria, a game changer projected to increase Nigeria's 20-foot equivalent unit TEU capacity to over 2.5 million per annum. Here, the entire 90 hectares of land is simultaneously under construction, a development showing commitment to prompt delivery. Out of the 20 buildings mapped out for operational and supporting services, 18 are already at advanced stage, while the pre-gates and 3 substations for electrification are already being constructed.
In terms of our building with the container area, we want a situation where everything can be synergized in terms of having a full automation.
At the waterfront, the quay wall is already taking shape, while dredging and all the construction at the marine side are at over 80% completion. There is optimism that the project will be ready before the September delivery deadline.
The equipment is a separate package of procurement that we have already done. Within a couple of weeks, they will be put on a ship, erected and all. They'll come and sail here and be parked in front of the quay wall, so the equipment will get on the quay wall.
While the Lekki Deep Sea Port is special is that it has a draft of 16.5 meters and turning cycle of 600 meters.
The capacity of phase 1 is 1.2 million. Basically, that is equivalent to the entire capacity in Lagos today. Phase 2 will take it to 2.7 million, which will actually exceed the entire capacity for the Nigerian port today.
While commending the Minister of Transportation for his timely intervention, which led to the commencement of the project in 2018, the acting managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority says the Lekki Deep Sea Port identifies with the goal of changing the spectrum of port administration and increasing the options for cargo destination in Nigeria.
Lekki will also be able to take in more containers than some of the terminal operators we have. There will be more efficiency. When you digitalize system, it means that you have reduced human interference, human error, and it is likely to take businesses from some of the ports that we have here in Nigeria.
The Lekki Deep Sea Port, when completed, will not only reduce constraint on existing ones, but lay the foundation for the automation of processes in Nigerian ports. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
Large amount of water hyacinth is clogging major waterways in Lagos. Boat operators and other users of water channels are raising concerns over the effect of the infestation on their activities. Abolade Salami will tell us more about the fast-growing invasive aquatic plant and efforts made to tackle its menace.
Water hyacinth is a free-floating tropical water plant that surfaces on the waterways mostly in November and rises to its peak December every year. Oftentimes by January, the salty nature of some waterways and grinding effect of machines used to harvest the vegetation assist in reducing its infestation. This period, however, the scenario is different, as every presence of the plant is conspicuous on water channels along Marina, through Eko under bridge all the way to Ikorodu. The clogging consequences is taking a toll on activities of boat operators on the roads.
If they can go to that very point that this grass is coming from, the water hyacinth, I think maybe they can nip it from there.
For carry passenger, this grass hyacinth always block everywhere on the water.
To address difficulties experienced by boat operators and commuters, relevant authorities are deploying more machinery to safely clear off the invasive weeds.
This particular water hyacinth that we've seen has been quite stubborn, and it's very interesting how it's just come back, and it's now not even staying in the areas where it usually stays. It's coming into the central area, the inland areas. But for us, one of the things we continue to do is continuous clearing, and also what we do is also continuous recycling.
Water hyacinth, according to scientists, can grow fast uncontrollably. It can spread rapidly within a short period of time, even after it has been cleared. Both operators are appealing for more concerted and strategic efforts to ensure regular clearing of the plant from the waterways. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
A quick reminder is that you can follow this news live on our website at nta.ng/live and on YouTube at NTA News Online. You can also visit our Facebook page at NTA Network News, on Twitter at NTA News Now, and on Instagram at NTA Network for updates. We'll take another break. The network news will continue with Iere in Abuja. Do stay with us.
Glad to have you back. Now time to do business with Benny Adams. Benny.
Thank you, Yere, and welcome to business. We start by telling you that ahead of the 37th Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee meeting and the 25th OPEC, a non-OPEC meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, OPEC Secretary General Muhammadu Sanusi Barkindo hints that OPEC is moving forward with the declaration of cooperation strategy of adopting a flexible, agile, and data-centered approach in its review. The meeting, which is to review oil market development, is expected to retain a resilient stand despite the volatile market dynamics and make adjustments where necessary. Meanwhile, oil slipped on Tuesday, staying close to a 7-year high, weighed by speculation OPEC Plus could go further than expected to add supply at a meeting on Wednesday and expectations of a rise in U.S. inventories. Brent crude was down 51 cents at $88.75 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude slipped 63 cents to sell at $87.52. Brent and U.S. crude hit their highest levels since October 2014 on Friday at $91.70 and $88.84 respectively. And on the capital market, investors gained 262.18 billion naira as all share index begins the month on a positive note, inches up by 1.04%. The close equities market at more than 47,000 basis points. 341.5 million shares valued at 3.6 billion naira were traded in 6,417 deals. Equity capitalization appreciated to 25.3 trillion naira. Seplat led 36 gainers as against 20 losers, topped by Caverton at the end of today's session. On the activity chart, Transcap topped in terms of volume with 32.1 million shares and was followed by Fidelity Bank and Access. Guarantee and NGX Group topped the market value list. That is business news, but NTA News continues with Suleiman in Kaduna. Suleiman?
And welcome to Kaduna. Kaduna State Government officially presents security situation report for last year, saying it will never bow down on fighting criminal elements and securing the lives and property of people in the state. Umar Ajingi reports.
The 54-page report covers areas of banditry, kidnapping, rape and other crimes within the period. It also articulates statistics of casualties and criminals in hundreds who were neutralized. Similarly, the document points out data collected from all security agencies, including ward, district heads, chiefdoms and emirates. Commissioner Internal Security and Home Affairs Samuel Aruan presents the report to Governor Nasur Ahmad El-Rufai, who says security agencies will continue to be supported.
We continue to emphasize as a state government that we do not believe there is any phenomenon like repentant bandits. Any person that makes a conscious decision to secure arms, challenge the authority of the Nigerian state, and threaten the lives and property of Nigerians does not deserve to live. We urge our military, police, and other security agencies to ensure coordinated actions and intensify simultaneous kinetic operations against these terrorists until they are decimated to the point of surrender.
Stakeholders at the event said they remain committed towards achieving crime-free state.
The Kaduna State Government has sustained this quarterly security update for a while now to keep the citizens aware of accurate security information in the state and the efforts being done by the security agencies to chase out this bandit from the state and, of course, the entire country. From the Government House, Kaduna, Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
And security challenges bedeviling the country makes it compelling for armed forces to redesign approach in dealing with sophistication of criminality. This is one of the highlights at this year's Law of the Sea seminar of senior course 44 participants at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji. Haruna Muhammad reports.
The seminar is for naval officers and one of their own, former Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Jubrila Ayinla, attempts to meet minds with participants. The issues include tasking Nigerian Navy to continue to strive in preserving the nation against emerging sophistication in piracy on the nation's territorial waters. He says it can be achieved through coordinated approach as efforts are put on addressing oil bunkering, illegal migration, illegal trafficking of drugs, and other major threats to maritime safety.
We enjoin the young ones who are coming behind us to put their mind to this job. It is not a job where you make money. It's a job where you have taken an oath to sacrifice your life to the nation.
This seminar is actually also to enhance the students' understanding of the implementations of the laws guiding the operations at sea.
Series of papers presented are to serve as guide and working document for the participants to come up with permanent and sustainable solutions on security challenges. Haruna Muhammad, NTA News.
And with that report is back to Inyere for more on the network news.
The Kogi State 9-man Advisory Intervention Committee on Culture and Tourism, inaugurated by Governor Yahaya Bello to develop the first ever holiday village in Africa to be sited in Lokoja, has come up with an 8-point agenda on how to actualize their mandate. Chairman of the committee, Olusegun Roshawe, stated that the 8-point agenda includes a visit to all historical and heritage sites in the state, as well as trips to farm and national sites. There is going to be interface with brand names in the country, setting up of media players, building a brand identity for the holiday village, develop feedback mechanism with the Kogi State Government House. Roshawe thanked Governor Yahaya Bello for his vision in setting up the committee and culture and tourism, which is poised to fast-track all the numerous tourism potentials of Kogi State, noting that Kogi State boasts of so many historical, cultural and tourism potentials. Now a bit of sports. Egypt beat Cote d'Ivoire on penalties to reach Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals, and Super Eagles fully focused on Ghana clash after exit from AFCON 2021. Let's now join Oluseyi Adiagbo for details. And just to know, Egypt will meet Cameroon on Thursday in the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations. Now, Mrs. Oyeronke Adebola Adigun, who passed at the age of 73 on the 23rd of December last year, is to be laid to rest on Wednesday, February the 2nd. Commendation services to take place at Rest Park of All Souls Church, Kilometer 12, Ararinde Street, Ido, Ibadan, by 10 a.m. Night of tribute and service of songs is slated for Thursday at Union Baptist Church, Odiolo Street, Oshogbo, by 4 p.m. Thanksgiving services to take place at the same church on Friday by 10 a.m., while reception is at Aurora Conference and Event Center, Oshogbo. And that concludes NTA Network News tonight. Many thanks for watching, and please remember that the fight against rape and rapists is still on. Do your part. I'm Ian Ray John. Have a good night.